Good afternoon. Welcome to Trail Talk. So glad you could join us today. I'm Edie and coming to you live
Mary's here too.
from the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan, Oklahoma. We're in our classroom studio, and yes, Mary is here too. Pulling double duty again. She is the jack of all trades around here. So she got us rolling for the camera. She's going to make sure that we are live and that there is sound. So if my lips are moving and you can't hear what I'm saying, then she's going to come back and let us know. But I hope you've been able to be outside, enjoy some of the weather recently. It's really been nice. And then today, boom, not so much. Crazy, right? Anyway, so we are we good? Oh, okay, okay. So we're continuing our state symbols and emblems. The bison lesson last week was just man, it was just really great, and I think it's really been fun taking these deep dives into the are we good? Okay, taking deep dives into each one of these symbols, and just really concentrating a lesson on them. And so that's what we are continuing to do today. We are going to look at the raccoon, which we love raccoons around here. We are currently even the raccoon is one of the animals that we are focusing on in our animal lesson. And raccoons, I did a little looking, and for people who study the age of the earth and, animals and all that. Anyway, this was kind of interesting. It was first thought that, however many millions of years ago, raccoons were actually in Europe. They came to what is now North America, and then they went back to Europe. Hi, there's Mary. They went back to Europe, and they are now considered to be alien. What was the word? In Europe. They are in Europe now, and even in Africa and Asia countries because they're native to North America, South America, Central America. They are considered to be like alien invasive animals over there.
But they're so cute.
I know. I don't know.
I want to just hold your hand.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing over there that is making them be considered that. But I mean, this face, right? I don't know.
Oh, they're so cute.
So first of all, I thought it'd be important for us to know what is a fur bearer. Because that was the selection. That was what our legislature chose.
Right. That wording.
Yeah. So fur bearers, this tells us any mammal that has fur with commercial value. And so everyone has seen a coonskin cap, the Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone characters, people.
The rifle and the vest and
right,
the tail.
Yes, exactly. So there's your evidence that a raccoon has been considered a fur bearer because it has a commercial value for its pelt. Some people would hunt them to eat, but there was a time when everybody ate everything. So, I'm glad we're not.
We're not.
Yeah, and then there are some animals that have been trapped for their fur in the past. So anyway, in fact, when we were talking to an older group of kids recently about raccoons, I asked them if they had ever read Where the Red Fern Grows, because that book is all about a young boy who has 2 dogs that he trains,
Mhm.
old Dan and little Ann, to help him hunt raccoons. That's what that whole story's, that's the action that's happening. There's
Right.
a lot more to the story, of course, but that's the action happening in the story. And it was a very common thing. I had friends when I was a kid who would go
Out hunting and
hunting.
things.
We never,
Or they call it fur trapping? Is that sometimes they
Well,
call them that?
not when they're hunting raccoons.
Okay.
They're just going hunting.
Hunting.
Yeah. And but they had dogs that were trained to help them.
Sniff them out.
And it was a nighttime hunting expedition because they're nocturnal.
Right.
So anyway, that's my knowledge.
Their
I know.
expressions, they're just like, you talking
They-
about me?
Yeah, their faces are
And
just
it's like,
so,
man, he's like,
they're so great. So
there it is.
here we have a picture of the fur trappers and traders. So I thought let's kind of take a little tour and talk about these historically, how did the raccoon become our state fur bearer? There has to be some historical link.
Yeah, something
More-
that links
more
it back
than-
to Oklahoma.
Yes,
than
more
just
than they're just around here.
a fashion
right?
statement.
Yeah, exactly. So fur trade, I felt like, and the information I found, the Oklahoma Historical Society has just great information about all kinds of things, but fur trade, I always think about more northern animals.
Right.
The fur
Right.
traders, the
Like in
French.
the wooded type
Mhm.
areas and.
And in the 1600s, I mean, the French were here.
Mhm.
And they were doing fur hunting and trapping and trading and all of
Well,
those
some
kinds
of
of.
the animals they had probably never seen before
Right.
either. So this was like what do they call it? Like a luxury.
Right. Yes, yes. So Coronado, though, who was Spanish,
Mhm.
in the 1500s, made mention of seeing raccoons or being a part of this fur trade. He didn't mention raccoons, but he was a part of fur trade that was happening amongst the Plains Indians. Okay, so the fur
barter
trading, right? Yes, exactly. The Native Americans are meeting up with these European settlers.
Mhm.
And so the fur trade starts happening now. Native Americans, we know because of our lesson about bison last
That's
week,
right.
they
Want not,
were,
waste not.
well, exactly, they didn't waste anything. And so if they hunted whatever animal they hunted and they took the hide off of it, that pelt had a specific use, or they found a way to make it useful
Right.
in their lives, or
Right.
they didn't bother killing it. Now
I needed to
raccoons,
trade for something else.
Yeah.
That they did need.
because of the raccoon personality, I didn't really look at this, and I'm kicking
They do
myself
have a
now.
cute
for that.
personality.
The kind of the way Native Americans view raccoons, they have a bit of a sly,
They're kind of, yeah.
and maybe tricky,
Mhm.
maybe, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And so,
Like a jokester.
yeah, because of the way they, that some of the things they do are almost human-like.
Yes.
You
Well,
know.
even their hands.
Yes,
They have those
exactly.
thumbs
And they really are hands,
Mhm.
hands.
Mhm.
So, anyway, so the French, they were not, like Coronado was seeking the city of gold,
Right.
and the fountain of youth, or all those kinds of things.
He found the
And
bed of
what was called the place that he was,
Atlanta. And
you know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
They made
Mhm.
some animated movie about it.
Mhm.
Anyway, but the French were more into the fur trade.
Mhm.
And so they began working with the Native Americans, and even they all Native Americans at some point probably traded furs with
Right.
someone else.
Right.
A European who was
Yes.
here.
They're probably willing to pay big bucks for it.
But yes, absolutely, because they realized that the weather would require them to have different outerwear than what they had.
Native
had
Americans are
before.
like, we've seen it, we have them.
Exactly, yeah, and so they were able to learn actually from the Native Americans, what they were doing with these furs.
What had more
Exactly,
value.
plus, many of them, a Spanish official, now remember, because when we studied the flag,
Mhm.
how all of these
Yes.
different flags
Yes,
were over
influenced.
Oklahoma, you know, we had the French, and then we had the Spanish, and then we had the French again, and then we had the Spanish
We
again,
have
I
to be
mean.
simple and more
Right,
intricate.
it's everywhere. So the Spanish commented that these French trappers,
Mhm.
they hunted any kind of fur, for any kind of fur.
Mhm.
They killed whatever. And then, they would hang out with the Native Americans
See how we treat it.
well, no, that was what, when their downtime,
Oh,
they would just hang out with the Native Americans.
there's the
And
locals.
right, yeah. And most of them were uneducated, so we don't have like many, if any, firsthand account from a fur trader.
Right.
And so anything that we have is an observation. So it's always going to have someone else's opinion kind of attached to
Right,
it.
right.
And
Not necessarily unbiased.
yes, yes. So I felt like some of the comments were a little biased. But the physical evidence, even though it's rare,
Mhm.
think about words or places in Oklahoma with a French influence. Okay, we have the verdigris, the Grand, Illinois, Poteau,
Mhm.
Arkansas rivers, the Illinois River, the Samboy Mountains,
Mhm.
and Salisaw Creek. Those are just a few of the features named by long forgotten French
First
traders.
four I had never heard before. So. Are those places or?
Yes,
in Oklahoma?
Verdigris,
Okay.
is a town, a very small town.
Okay.
Grand, like Grand Lake.
Okay.
Illinois is a river.
Right, okay.
Poteau is a
Yeah, I've
town.
heard of that one. I think that's where I started.
Yeah. Arkansas, I didn't realize Arkansas was a French name.
The way
But-
that it's pronounced.
Right, yes.
Kind of has
Yeah.
that.
So I love now that, this fur trading, information that I was able to find all this. So,
It cracks me up too. I used to kind of just kick back here, just watching the transaction.
right,
They're
yeah.
both just.
So following the French and Indian War,
Mhm.
the Treaty of Paris of 1763 from New Orleans
Yeah.
came about, yeah. And so, France ends up with this area,
And there's a huge influence
yeah,
there. In
and they
Louisiana.
leave this big influence, and there was a family named Choteau, which is another name of a town in Oklahoma. They lost their trade monopoly. Anyway, they were in this Three Forks region, and there was a lot of trade that happened in this region. So here we have essentially the Louisiana Purchase. Okay, and here we have Oklahoma. And so you see kind of where how we fit into all of this. And there was, fur was a huge part of the trading that was all happening here. And so there was a region they called the Three Forks, and where it was known for exchanging pelts of beaver, deer, bison, and other fur-bearing animals. And then it received national attention in 1806 when President Thomas Jefferson submitted a report to Congress from Meriwether Lewis suggesting the Three Forks as an advantageous location for the federal government to establish a trading post. So the Louisiana Purchase happened in 1803. Lewis and Clark, Meriwether Lewis of the Lewis and Clark expedition, they sail along the rivers. They go all the way around and they map it out and they explore it. And they come back and report to the new President Jefferson. And they're like, this Three Forks area, this is where the trade mecca is. And so the government's like, oh, well, then let's go put our own trading post
Like
there.
that's the new up and coming area.
Everyone else other people already had trading posts, but we're gonna put one there now.
Because we're the US.
Yeah. So I'm sure that it gave the government a way to start making some money. They just shelled out a bunch, right, for the Louisiana Purchase.
Just
So
small.
it's,
Acres of land.
yeah. So that was an important part of the history of all of it. Now the Indians would barter other things as well.
Right.
And then the opening of trade with Santa Fe, which is over here. It's going to be New Mexico right over here. And this is Mexico. Okay, this is all considered Mexico,
Like
the
country,
nation,
yeah.
the nation of Mexico. And so Santa Fe is over here, and because imported beaver pelts were not taxed by the U.S. government, they were preferred over silver by traders who returned from New Mexico.
They're being taxed.
Right, so they would come down here and they would trade other things to get these beaver
Right.
pelts from the Native Americans of the New Mexico, the New Mexico area. So, the August P. Choto, this is a picture of him. Of course, this
He's
was
trying not to laugh.
well before, so he was a descendant of people who had been trying to do trade
In that
in
area.
the Oklahoma
Mhm,
area, what would
mhm.
become Oklahoma, for years and years. And in 1817, he and Joseph Revoix, a French Osage frontiersman, obtained a license to trade with the Osage from Missouri Territory. Okay, now we've
That
talked
was probably a
about,
pretty big thing.
yeah, we've talked about the Osage recently too.
Mhm.
The two opened a post on the east bank of the Grand River above the mouth of Saline Creek. So then Revoix was killed by Cherokees in 1821, and Choteau moved there permanently to manage the operations. And they called the verdigris the Emporium of the Southwest.
So I'm just picturing
The
this
verdigris
huge,
river,
like,
yeah.
warehouse,
Right?
Right.
Right. So, I mean,
Come get your never before seen items.
we've talked about how sometimes, what's now Oklahoma, we're talked about being a flyover state.
Mhm.
Sometimes we were just a pass-through
Right.
state, even the Chisholm Trail.
Move them here and get rid of
Yeah,
them.
we're just a pass-through.
right.
Here's where we started, here's where we're
Right.
heading. But at this time in history, Oklahoma was a hot spot. It was a trading Mecca. Yeah, exactly. And so, I think these are important things for us to understand
mhm.
about.
Well, when
our
you're talking,
history.
it kind of reminds me, it's nothing at all, but like the Cabbage Patch phase back in the 80s, we had never seen those. Everyone wanted them. People were paying high dollar for them,
Mhm.
People were coming in wanting them from the US. People moving here never had seen the way these furs and things were treated and worn,
Right.
and people were willing to.
Mhm.
Native Americans, they'd done there,
Right.
been there, done that.
Mhm.
Some of their stuff, like the bones, they'd make into jewelry.
Yes,
So they could,
that's true.
you know.
Yeah, and in New Mexico, the New Mexico area, the people who lived there, the Spanish people, often would take the Native Americans as kind of like as slaves. And there were stories, we've toured around over near the Red River, New Mexico
Mhm.
area, which isn't, I mean, it's a couple of hours maybe from Santa Fe, but at one place, one cave where they mined, I think it was silver, they would break their legs so that they couldn't escape. But they were used to go in and mine the silver. And so when they talked about how they would bring the beaver pelts rather than silver, Native Americans they were working for people who were taking a great deal of wealth from the country. What became the United States, it's been a country of a lot of wealth from a lot of different sources over the years. But at any rate, at one time in the early days, in 1871, the early days of Muskogee, Oklahoma, a man named Clarence Turner became a prominent businessman in the city. Now this is probably 1871. So this is post-Civil War, okay? But
Not quite statehood yet.
Not quite statehood, yeah. Even pre land run. During the days of the trail drives though, 1871 would have been. Anyway, he became a prominent businessman and recalled sorting the pelts of raccoon, fox, skunk, wolf, possum, badger, beaver, and otter for his father before fur buyers arrived to bid on them. Although its economic importance has become negligible, the trapping and trading of furs continued in Oklahoma and many other states until the 21st century.
I just see like, here's your furs, here's your fox.
Right, yeah,
Like this-
right, big
awesome.
bins of them
like
are.
those people that sell blankets on the side of the road, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So
Sure.
anyway, super interesting history about all of the fur trading and the fur bearing animals. Yeah. So
And
now
it's a
we
cute
get back
little-
to, I got a lot of cute pictures of raccoons on here today, but, so during those fur trading times, raccoons were hunted aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually became
Close.
close, yes, now not like the bison,
Right.
they were not as close
That-
as the bison,
right.
but so many raccoons were killed that a tax was imposed to prevent their extinction in the 1800s.
Man,
Yeah. And it was estimated that more than 1 million raccoons were killed each year for their fur.
and they're not very big animals, so you're
No.
not getting like a blanket or, you know.
Right, right. So anyway, they were hunted relentlessly like the bison that we've
Mhm,
discussed.
mhm.
They were able to
Repopulate.
repopulate. Of course, they can
They
have
kind of
4 to-
hide out too.
and they can have 4 to 7 kits,
Mhm.
in a litter.
Right.
So,
Right.
that stands to reason. So, the
Can't take it.
Oscar the Grouch used
off
to live
my
here,
yard.
but yeah, he's not there anymore. So urban raccoons, we have talked about this with the students who come here also.
Mhm.
Driven to urban areas, mainly, I'm gonna say because of a lack of an ecosystem or a habitat that can support them.
Right.
They move
Feeding.
into populated areas and because they are omnivores,
Yeah.
they will eat. I mean, okay,
If it's there, they'll eat it.
you can't say this not every omnivore will pull out a pizza box and eat a slice of
Right,
pizza off.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But raccoons do. And because of this, they can survive with ease in a populated,
They're not picky.
a place populated by humans.
Because what we're willing to get rid of, they're willing to eat.
Yes, exactly. And lifting the lid off of a trash
We've had
can,
them.
nothing. Yeah, exactly. We have a big old dumpster. I don't know if I've ever shared this on Trail Talk or not. We've got a big dumpster out in our parking lot, like businesses
Mhm.
have. And one day someone was carrying some trash out and
Pretty
sometimes,
wooded around here.
yeah, and sometimes the general public will use our
Right.
dumpster. And so someone had left the lid off of it and there was a raccoon, a pretty good sized raccoon
Mhm. Yeah.
down in the
It was
dumpster.
full grown for
Um,
sure.
She was at
Stuck in the
first
corner.
playing
Mhm,
dead
mhm.
almost. Anyway, we drug a big branch out of the wooded area and shoved it down in there. And sometime later, she crawled
There
out.
was a
She
baby,
gone.
wasn't it? Was it?
Yeah, I
think they
think
said.
so.
But
Yeah.
if you've never, if you've ever been in a dumpster, they're slick inside.
Yeah.
I've had my,
The
had
sides
to
are
go
great.
looking for stuff before.
Yeah,
You can't hold on to anything, and those animals, no matter their claws or hands, they can't climb out.
yeah, yeah,
So they were stuck until,
yeah. So we were able to help.
but it does scare you when you throw
So-
that lid back and there's something
Yeah.
down there.
Or like on the movie Elf, somebody needs a hug. The raccoon jumps him. But anyway, this raccoon looks aggressive. And that is something to take
They
note
are
of.
too.
Well, raccoons are mammals. They're animals born with their eyes closed, so they are susceptible to rabies.
Mhm.
And so they can carry rabies. They get other diseases as well, but they can be aggressive. And so you can't,
Keep your distance.
even though they're so stinking
Yeah.
cute, don't approach one with the idea that you're going to be
Adopt a
friend.
pet.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Mhm. I'm sure there's a process if you wanted to do that, have a pet as a raccoon type thing, but you don't do them from the wild.
Right,
There's a
right.
process.
Now, I've told this story here at least, that as a kid, I had a pet raccoon that was an abandoned baby that my dad found. And he was a fun little pet. We'd carry him around, feed him sugar cubes. I know.
He's all hyped up on sugar.
Yeah, well, because they do
Like
that
human.
washing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I could not find any information that could states for sure, 100% sure, the reason they do this washing,
Right.
because it said that they will even do that motion if there's no water around, which is true. I've seen them do it. But people, because it looks like they're washing their food before they eat it. We're assigning a human trait to an animal, so that,
Like, look.
yeah, it makes sense to us. But the hands, they literally
Yes.
are called hands. They have like an
Thumb.
opposable thumb that allows them to do this
Grip. Yes.
like
They can turn things.
a human. Yes, they can twist and manipulate, and their claws are long because they live in trees and they can climb trees easily. So they have things that they can do, and a thing that their back feet can do is they can turn 180 degrees. So if they go down like a tree head first, their back feet, they can turn them so that they're gripping behind them like that. Like, they're hanging
Right, like
on
they're-
like this.
yeah.
So their feet are facing opposite directions as they're going down a tree. And so that enables them to
Kind of
be
like
in
they
full
have a
control.
Batman car where they're flipping
Yeah.
around and.
Yeah, something like that, but look at that little
I
face.
know. So
Some
sweet looking.
scientists think that maybe
Their
the
little
marking of their little mask is helps them see at night.
Like an adaptive type thing that's
Mhm.
happened through the years.
Yeah, yeah, so, but nobody knows that for sure either. So speaking of them being up in
In
trees,
their hands.
yeah, the kits, they have 4 to 7, one
Mhm.
time a year. The females raise the kits by themselves. A group of raccoons is called,
I can't remember.
I can't
They
either.
teach it. It's a
There are 2
I want to say a
different,
plethora, but it's not.
it's not,
It is a
oh my gosh. Travis on squad is. Oh, the word raccoon is derived from either a Powhatan or Algonquin Native American word that means he who scratches with his hands. They're a member of the bear family.
Yes.
But sometimes people think they might be more like a dog or a cat or something because of some of the
That video we
things
showed
they
that
do.
they're more closely related to bears.
Anyway, the male doesn't hang around. He doesn't really have anything to do with.
They have like 200 different sounds they make. to
Yeah,
communicate.
yes. They are a nursery or a gaze. That's what a group of raccoons is called, a nursery or a gaze. So
Well, just gaze upon them.
gaze
I mean,
upon
can you imagine
babies
gazing upon
and-
little
I-
babies?
right. So why do they have 4, 5, 6, or 7?
This is amazing.
Yeah, so in nature,
So cool.
if the mother, the female, if has had enough food, if her body weight, extra fat, whatever is ample, then she will have more babies because that is the indicator that there is plenty
Right.
of food.
The habitat and everything around it can sustain there, can
Yes.
support that.
Yes, but if she is lighter or not carrying as much weight as she should, then she will have fewer kids.
It's just a self-check and balance
Yeah.
type thing.
It's the same thing. We studied black bears.
Mhm.
Black bears do the same thing. Now, they don't have like 4 to 7, but they'll
Right.
have 1 or
Whatever they can
2
support.
or, yeah, whatever their habitat,
Mhm.
ecosystem, whatever it is that's providing their food source, determines how many
How cool
babies
is
they
nature?
have. Yeah, beavers do that.
Mhm.
I mean, nature is super cool.
Right.
So yeah, these little guys are born, like I said, they're mammals. They're born with their eyes closed. They stay inside the den, which is usually like
6 to
a
9.
hollow tree
Yeah.
or something
Or,
like that.
yeah, burrow that's been left abandoned.
Yeah, 6 to 9 weeks, and then they come out. I feel like these guys right here are
Pretty fresh.
Pretty fresh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everything's new. Their
Mhm.
hair's not quite as long.
Yeah, they may be venturing out. Their little mask is even brownish,
Mhm.
and it hasn't turned black yet.
This one behind looks like he's following him
Yeah.
to figure out what exactly is going on.
Exactly. So, anyway, raccoons are everywhere and diseases will, affect a population, but primarily, being run over by cars,
Yes,
is kind of the main
their number one threat.
way. Yeah, their number one threat.
Yeah.
But they're out at night, their coloration is hard to see, and when you're
You already see
going.
the glow of the eyes and
Yeah, and you're going 65 miles an hour, you can't.
was that really a
always
glow? Was it
stop.
not a glow?
Yeah, it's really hard to determine, what you
Mhm.
should or shouldn't do. They don't hibernate, they go into a state of torpor,
Kind
Torpor,
of like a,
which is like dormant.
right,
They're kind of
like
dormant
an awake
in the
helmet
winter.
type thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, so they will eat more, but they'll venture out if they need to. They're just kind of,
Their body kind of goes into like a skeleton crew type thing.
Yeah,
Just whatever I
there's-
need to use, I'll use. Whatever I don't, I'm not gonna burn.
yeah, exactly. And so that you won't see them as much in the wintertime because they're kind of doing that. They can learn to do certain tasks and they can recall that for as long as 3 years. Like do it and then 3 years later,
Right.
if you present them with the same thing,
Mhm.
they will be able to
Like in a zoo setting or
complete
something
that
where they
task.
taught them something and then come back later.
Yeah, and then as far as animal IQ goes, they rank between cats and monkeys. So they're very high.
Are we above cats
I-
and monkeys? Where did
I
humans go
don't
on?
know where we fall.
Where's the average?
But that is, I feel like,
Some monkeys, I mean,
yes,
they can do a lot of
monkeys are
our
very
human
intelligent.
type things, you know?
Yeah, so anyway, they're very high ranking as far as animal IQ goes. And they are, let's see if there's anything else that we haven't told you guys. They are just a fun animal to watch, a fun animal to to think about being around. And no matter where you are though, any kind of if they're urban raccoons, if they're in a more natural habitat.
City or country folk.
Yeah, exactly. The city raccoon, the
Yeah.
country raccoon. You just really need to stay aware.
Observe from a distance.
Yes, yeah. And
Because
just,
if they are a wild animal, they're not gonna be happy in a home or,
right.
you know,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
type setting.
That's the moral of the story of my
They're gonna
raccoon.
their family.
Because my raccoon learned how to unlatch his cage. He would disappear at night, come back in the morning. We figured it out because his cage was not latched or something would be kind of different.
Just didn't know how to break it to
So,
you. He was ready to leave the
yeah.
house.
So he was going off to play with other raccoons at night. And then he didn't come back. And then we found him in our chicken coop, killing chickens. So
He got bored.
yeah, the moral of the story is
Forgot.
just let them stay wild.
Mhm.
Let them stay
Mhm.
wild. It's just better in the long run.
Yeah.
So that concludes our lesson about Oklahoma State fur bearer.
realized I
the
wore
oh,
Stripes
you
today.
did, you did. So I hope you learned some really interesting information. Again, just raccoons have always been here in North America, and their population had to
Overcome it.
they had to overcome the onslaught of the fur traders and trappers and people wanting to kill them for their furs
That one was
only.
saying in the trash can, we survived.
Yeah, yeah.
You will not take me down.
Exactly. Their population is secure now as
Mhm.
far as, being under any kind of scrutiny for whether there's
Extinction or
enough
anything.
of them, yeah, for population concerns. So anyway, Oklahoma State fur bearer, we're so glad you guys could join us for this lesson today.
Cute little guys.
Yeah, very cute. Tomorrow, Greg Irway. Yay.
He was
we're-
one of our original.
He was, yeah. So it was disappointing that something happened and he wasn't able to come a few weeks ago, but we were able to reschedule for tomorrow. He is an amazing artist. His skills and talent are they're really great. I can't wait for you to see some of his work. And he's a guy, he's from Lawton, so he's just a local
He's
guy,
local.
but he owns a gallery in Paseo and some other places. And anyway, we will be talking to him tomorrow. So
She will be. I'll be back
yes,
behind the
yeah.
camera.
So anyway, I hope you guys will join us then. And until then, happy
Happy trails.
trails. She's gonna turn it off.